So talk to me about what's happening for you right now.
So I was describing that I know there's an awareness around the lifetimes in service before God. And so I can feel like there's just a lot of layers there.
Hmm.
And
And
so
in
I
your
don't,
body, you said your heart's beating fast.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure if that's dovetailing in now with this notion of kind of being kind of called or put on the spot.
Yeah, being
But,
seen.
I can feel a lot of heat rising right
Okay.
now.
All right. Even
Mhm.
though my heart is beating really fast
Even though my heart is beating really fast
and I feel a lot of heat rising in my body,
and I feel a lot of heat rising in my body
when I think about being seen,
when I think about being seen,
even on this video,
even on this video,
even being spotlighted for all the workshop participants to see.
even being spotlighted for all of the workshop participants to see.
And maybe it's related to those lifetimes in service.
And maybe it's related to those lifetimes in service.
I ask my body, my guides, and higher self,
I ask my body, my guides, and my higher self,
where does this come from originally?
where does this come from originally?
My heart racing and feeling all this heat,
My heart racing and feeling all of this heat,
being in the spotlight.
being in the spotlight.
Top of the head. All this heat in my body,
All of this heat in my body,
heat rising,
heat rising,
my heart beating fast.
my heart beating fast.
I wonder if it's got something to do with my lifetimes in service.
I wonder if it has something to do with my lifetimes in service.
I ask the multidimensional layers of my DNA
I ask the multidimensional layers of my DNA
that remember all my lifetimes.
that remember all of my lifetimes.
Where have I felt this before?
Where have I felt this before? It is sort of a sense reminding me of fire.
So when you said fire and you also said heat rising, what's
Mhm.
coming for you?
It was this notion of almost like when the flames are getting higher.
Mhm.
Um,
Sort of like a witch being burned at the stake scenario.
Possibly, which I already kind of feel like, even though I haven't, that particular lifetime hasn't come up yet, I already feel pretty confident that that was in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but as soon as you said heat rising, that's what my intuition said, um, because heat doesn't always rise, but yeah, the heat rising from beneath. Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, it
Um,
definitely feels like from the lower
mm-hmm.
portion,
Yep.
like up. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Asking the multidimensional layers of my DNA
Asking the multidimensional layers of my DNA
that remember all my lifetimes.
that remember all of my lifetimes.
When have I physically felt this heat rising feeling?
When have I physically felt this heat rising feeling?
Heat rising from my feet.
Heat rising from my feet.
Lifetimes being in service for others.
Lifetimes being in service for others. There's also just an awareness of like my bladder, of that, like it's that sense where you feel like it's kind of that anxiety bladder where you're like, do I need to use the bathroom? Do I not need to use the bathroom?
Mm-hmm.
And
This
for some
anxiety.
reason that feels significant.
Yeah, this significant feeling of anxiety in my bladder.
This significant feeling of anxiety in my bladder.
It feels significant.
It feels significant.
Asking my guides and higher self,
Asking my guides and higher self,
why is this sensation significant?
why is this sensation significant? What had come in was anger.
Mm-hmm. This pissed off feeling,
This pissed off feeling.
anger in my bladder,
This anger in my bladder.
anger in my body,
This anger in my body.
asking my body, where does this come from?
Asking my body, where does this come from?
Anger in my body, heart racing,
Anger in my body and heart racing.
feeling it in my bladder, heat rising.
Feeling it in my bladder, heat rising.
Looking down from above from a spiritual perspective, what do I see?
Looking down from above, from a spiritual perspective, what do I see?
What's going on?
Um, we're kind of moving into another I know I've got resistance to this one when I'm asked what do I see? Um, that already kind of I feel like it almost shuts off anything I could see. Um,
Mm-hmm. So tell me this. I want you to say, I was a seer. There's resistance to that, isn't there? Yeah. All this emotion.
oh, this emotion.
I was a seer
I was a seer.
and it was dangerous.
It was dangerous.
I thought I was in service to others
I thought I was in service to others
by using my abilities as a seer.
by using my abilities as a seer.
But that was dangerous
But that was dangerous
in the time period I lived.
in the time period I lived.
I was in service to others. I was helping them
I was in service to others and I was helping them
using my abilities as a seer.
using my abilities as a seer.
But others were afraid of me,
But others were afraid of me,
of my abilities.
of my abilities.
And what did they do?
Uh, um, persecution and death.
They called me a witch.
I'm sure they called me a witch.
I was persecuted and killed for
I
being a
was
seer.
persecuted and killed for being a seer. I feel like I was also blamed.
I was blamed.
I was blamed.
Yep, so keep going under the arm. I was blamed.
I was blamed.
I used my abilities
I used
my abilities as a seer.
my abilities as a seer.
I used my gifts
I used my gifts
and I was blamed for something that happened.
and I was blamed for something that happened.
They feared me.
They feared me.
They blamed me.
They blamed me.
They persecuted me.
They persecuted me.
They killed me.
They killed me.
And my DNA still remembers the hate rising.
My DNA still remembers the hate rising. It also came in, they made an example of me.
They made an example of me.
They made an example of me.
Everyone was looking at me.
Everyone was looking at me.
No wonder I didn't want to be spotlighted.
No wonder I didn't want to be spotlighted.
I didn't want everyone looking at me.
And I didn't want everyone looking at me.
My DNA remembers that.
My DNA remembers that.
The anger, the blame.
The anger, the blame.
When I used my gifts and I thought I was helping people.
When I used my gifts and I thought I was helping people.
They turned on me.
They turned on me.
They blamed me.
They blamed me.
They persecuted me and made an example of me.
They persecuted me and made an example of me.
All this anger in my body.
All this anger in my body.
This nervous bladder.
This nervous bladder.
This heat rising.
This heat rising.
I thank my DNA for remembering it to protect me.
I thank my DNA for remembering it to protect me.
But it no longer serves me now.
But it no longer serves me now.
And as a being of light,
And as a being of light,
I have full free choice.
I have full free choice.
And it's my choice and my instruction
And it's my choice and my instruction
to all pieces and parts of me
to all pieces and parts of me
to process and release everything I remember.
to process and release everything I remember.
The persecution, the blame,
The persecution and blame.
the anger,
The anger.
the heat rising,
The heat rising.
the being made an example of and killed.
The being made an example of and killed.
For being a seer, for being a healer.
For being a seer, for being a healer.
They weren't ready for me in that lifetime.
They weren't ready for me in that lifetime.
But in this lifetime, I'm safe.
But in this lifetime, I'm safe.
Safe to be a seer.
Safe to be a seer.
Safe to be seen as a seer.
Safe to be seen as a seer.
Safe to be in service and a healer.
Safe to be in service and a healer. And it's safe to tell people what I've seen.
It's safe to tell people what I've seen.
It's safe to tell people what I've seen
In this lifetime,
in this lifetime.
I embrace my gifts.
I embrace my gifts.
And I let my voice know it's safe to tell about what I've seen.
And I let my voice know that it's safe to tell about what I've seen
In this lifetime.
in this lifetime.
And in future lifetimes.
And in future lifetimes.
I'm safe now.
I am safe now.
And I thank my DNA for reminding me of that lifetime.
And I thank my DNA for reminding me of that lifetime.
And my soul learning and lesson from that
And my soul learning and lesson from that
is to know that I'm safe now to speak about what I've seen.
is to know that I'm safe now to speak about what I've seen
In this lifetime, in this body.
in this lifetime, in this body.
It's safe to speak about what I see.
It's safe to speak about what I see.
For the highest good of myself and others.
For the highest good of myself and others.
I don't need to hide anymore.
I don't need to hide anymore.
I don't need to keep what I see a secret anymore.
I don't need to keep what I see a secret anymore.
And in honor of that lifetime,
And in honor of that lifetime,
I let her know
I let her know
she's safe now
she is safe now.
and she can speak through me.
She can speak through me.
And in this lifetime, we're safe to speak together.
And in this lifetime, we're safe to speak together.
I let her know she's safe to speak through me in this lifetime.
I let her know she's safe to speak through me in this lifetime.
Safe to speak about what we see.
Safe to speak about what we see.
Safe to fully step into our gift.
Safe to fully step into our gift.
And to be seen and heard.
Seen and heard.
And this is my promise to her.
And this is my promise to her.
How does that feel?
Yeah, I can feel there's a lot going on.
A lot of energy, a lot of multidimensional energy.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the same time, what was interesting was all the connections to the present, like just even talking to you all about wearing glasses when Richard asked about my glasses, because I'd had this awareness that my outer sight was connected to my inner sight. And I knew that when I could release that there will be
a clarity.
Yes. And what's interesting also was in Maui, Jenny, when Antonio asked me about one of my experiences following the channeling, he asked, "What did you see?" And I almost could see myself in that moment shutting down just with that phrase, like, "What did you see?" And it's so interesting too, because like I can see like this whole breadcrumb trail of all of this kind of converging to sort of this, because I also, when I was just getting into energy work and trying Reiki for the first time, like one of the things he said to me was, you saw something that you never told anyone about as a child. And like to this day, that's been sort of kind of rattling in the back there, like not sort of knowing what that was and kind of like wondering when, that may come to light. So I can just see how there are so many connections in so many different ways through all of this. So I'm just very, very grateful.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and allowing that, because it's such a common theme around people who see, or people who are healers, or who have had gifts, who in past lives were persecuted for that, were isolated for that, and so it's been a barrier for them in this lifetime.
Actually, I realized very early on that I did not believe I was intuitive because I was so stuck on this, like, I don't see things. And so I would have friends or family or someone like say, "You're so intuitive." And I'd be like, "No, I'm not." And I really could not see that I was intuitive, because in my mind, it was, you'd be able to see things then. And so I went through so long kind of thinking that, until eventually I started kind of opening up. And I've had an awareness across different sessions that my different channels have been opening. All my other clairs have been opening. And I also kind of had this awareness that like I feel like sight is going to come last because there's been so much weight placed on sight.
Yeah.
And so
The
I've also
danger of it.
seen that kind of as a gift too, that this is the opportunity for my other clairs to open up and come online, because I realize if I had kind of that I might, that, you know, again, I would sort of maybe rely more kind of heavily on that. But then also I think that's been kind of my gentle intuitive awakening, was allowing the others to kind of come online.
Come in first, yeah. And so what's that called? Clairsentience? Is it clairseeing? Yeah,
Claircognizant, well, wait, I'm going through all the ones now. Clairvoyance.
clairvoyance, yeah. So I want you to say, and see if it resonates. I give permission for my clairvoyance to come through.
I give permission for my clairvoyance to come through.
It's safe now.
It's safe now.
So that sounded quite landing with you. There wasn't a resistance to it.
No, I didn't feel like, I actually feel there's a lot of energy. Like I can feel a jitteriness. I can feel it's kind of live wire-ish, but I think that's like energy. Like,
yeah, like you're switched on, plugged in, tuned in. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yay.
Oh my God, thank you.
Awesome. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.